before I get to the announcements, I feel like I'm just being called to say, like, whatever your week was like, just take, like, relax your shoulders, take a breath. We're in a hard time, but we're here today to just worship and hear a great word about play and purpose. So I just want to encourage you, like, today is a day to spend time with the Lord, and whatever this next week will hold, He will be right there by your side to walk you through that. So just wanted to throw that out there, feeling called to say that. So a couple of announcements, and of course, you get a weekly email, and you can read all of these yourself, but consider me like your little summarizing app. All right, I'll summarize for you. October 30th, we have a fall festival coming up, and if the Bounce House Traffic Director title did not intrigue you last week, let me entice you with this. The parking team, if you want to wear, I bet, a cool vest, Rebecca?
We can probably look at the cool vest, but we got some neon shirts.
Oh, neon shirts, even better. Okay, so if you ever dreamed of, like, you know, having that control of directing parking, got that job for you. So, Fall Festival, in your email there's a link to sign up that you can click on and pick your service for the day. We have a lot of options. We also need candy. Remember, no chocolate because it will melt. But as you go about your week, grab a bag of candy and bring it to our drop-off spots throughout the church. Also, the next day will be Halloween, and we will have a very cool fashion show for costumes. Now, adults, it's really for children, unless, like, you know, unless you want to go out there and try that out. But we really want to show off the kids' costumes, so make sure October 31st, go ahead and be thinking about what you want to bring for lunch that day. And then this week, Administrative Council Charge Conference is on Monday at 6 o'clock. Everyone's invited. And then Men's Club this Tuesday at 6:30 here at the church. And then last but not least, if you have a prayer request or if you have a praise report, we would like to pray along with you, and we would like to praise with you as well. So please let somebody know at the church so that we can add you to either one of those lists. All right? Y'all have a great week. You too.
Without you, I fall. God, we thank you so much that you are able to fulfill, God, all the needs that we have. Our times of feeling empty, our times of feeling at want for more, our times of wondering, will there ever be enough for us? That God, in you, we are satisfied. And so this morning, as we come into this place, it's a time that we're setting aside. For some, it is a weekly thing. For some, it is something we do every time with intent to come to worship. For some of us, God, this is a morning where we come to explore. It's a morning where we come together and, God, we are sitting and we are watching and we are observing. Because we want to know this whole thing that people do together really matters and really counts. And so, God, I ask this morning that for whatever reason we came together, out of habit, out of requirements, out of expectations set on us or by ourselves, or just with an opportunity to see, that, God, we may all find and realize the greatness of who you are to be more and more true this morning and day after day. It's in your name we pray. Amen. Well, now, play and purpose is a big deal. Last week we got this all started. I put a little diagram up, and so I'm going to put it up again for you this week, because I want you to take a chance to look at this and reflect back a little bit, maybe how you felt this week. All right, so as we go through here, feel free. I like interactive worship, and so feel free to raise your hand. You can even do a shout out if you want to, like an amen, or that's it. All right, I'm cool with that. We have play, and we have purpose. Right? Now, if you don't have any play and you don't have any purpose, life is rather pitiful. How many of you are like, that was my week? It was a pitiful week. I felt this way. All right, let me just be honest with y'all. It was raining. All right, it was raining. It was raining. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so it was just a pitiful week. Me trying to find any play. I like to play outside. Like play inside. I don't know if that really even counts or exists. You know what I'm saying? Like play happens outside. I bought a bike trainer that I can ride my bike inside, and that was not a good idea. That was not money well spent, because that is miserable for me sitting inside, even if it's freezing cold outside, and riding a bike inside. Like I'd rather be outside, wind in my face, and new scenery happening by the second. I felt absolutely pitiful. Purpose, I was wondering all week long, like, is there any purpose to life? I just need sunshine. You know what I'm talking about? Y'all been there before? Yep. Pointless. You played hard. And it was great fun play, and yet you could not determine if you had any purpose behind anything happening in your life last week. Anybody find yourself there? Yeah. No hands there. You're a little hardy, yeah. That's cool. Yeah. How about this one? No play, all purpose. It was a painful week. You're working your tail off. You're like, I'm going to get it done. I got purpose in life. I know what I'm doing. And you didn't even make it to Wednesday or Thursday, and you were absolutely exhausted going, I think I'm going to make it. It's going to be Friday pretty soon. Anybody have one of those weeks? How many people have that week typically? You're like, that's pretty much my week. Yep, painful would be a good way to describe a week for me. All right, how many of y'all were here with play and purpose? You're like, this life was a premium this week. I was going, man, this is it. I got one hand, kind of a hand. It came back down. Yeah, there we go. Premium. All right, now if you had to pick one, which one would you pick? Yes, that's right. I set this up, right? I found somebody else did this, and I used some of their words, but then I liked another word, so I put it up there, and it's premium, because when I look at this, very few people go, I love it when life's pointless. You know what I'm saying? Whenever life is pointless, it's a good day. Nobody wants to be pitiful, right? We feel bad for people who are pitiful. We go, oh, it's just pitiful. You know what I'm saying? Bless your heart kind of word. And then painful. Most of us are trying to avoid pain at all costs, right? Like, what can I do not to ever feel that pain? I'll do whatever it takes. Premium is where we all want to be. With this kind of thing in mind, we began to talk about life and how it goes. And we said, what is something you did this last year that is still enduring and you're thankful you did it? What is something you did this last year at some point that's still enduring? You go, man, that was great, wasn't it? And maybe it's still going on in life for you now. You get up, and it's when you get up, you go, man, life is good. It's still going on. You're thankful you did it. What is it? If you can't think of one, you don't have one, maybe you have a purpose outage in life. And we also said this. We said, hey, look at it. What is something that you did, maybe over the summer, all right? What is something you did maybe this summer that is, boom, where'd it go? There you go. Where you just lost track of time and enjoyed it. You're like, oh my gosh, it's what time? We got to go, right? You don't have any of those. Maybe another time you had this. You went, oh, it's so much fun. Just totally forgot what time it is. I've got to get... Right? I got to pick up my kid. I got to put my kids to bed. I got to go to bed. If you can't think of one, maybe you have a play outage. And maybe you're missing out on that play in life. As we began to talk about it and we laid it out last week, we asked these questions, which brings us kind of to where we are today. We talked about our fall festival being a great time on Saturday, October the 30th, a day of purpose as a church. We're going to work hard that day. Some of us will be very tired, and most of us will feel a little fatigue on that day if you volunteer. There's a lot of people that come out. It's amazing. We have 106 vendors coming. That means there will be around 106 cars here before anybody else gets here. You don't think that's fun? Show up, all right? We'll be finding parking for people. We'll be trying to find ways to get people safely from one place to another as they park. We'll be making sure that when they get here after their hike to the church, right, that they will go, that was worthwhile, the hike, yeah? It will be tiring. And then on the 31st, we're going to play. That's what we're going to do for worship. We're going to play for worship that day. We're going to meet outside, hopefully, if weather permits, right? We're going to have a time singing some songs. I'm going to speak, but not nearly as long as I sometimes do, right? And then we're going to sit around the table. We're going to eat food, get to watch kids going down and showing off the costumes. We're going to have some people doing maybe some trunk or treat and decorate the car up. There's going to be candy going around. We're going to sugar high as a congregation, you know. They did play. And that's what we're working towards. But leading up to that, I want us to begin thinking throughout the month, how do these things really play into our lives? How do these things play into our family lives? How do these things really impact what we're doing and not doing, how we're feeling and not feeling as we go from day to day? Last week when I finished up, I had several people say, I just don't like to play. I mean, it was like, just people, I don't know, I need to play out there what you're talking about. I'm not a play person. I don't know play. I began to think, man, do we really have times where we just don't like play? Have we grown into something? And I began to think maybe we define play differently from person to person. So to set us up to talk about play today, I want to give you a couple of definitions to help kind of get your mind thinking so we can all kind of think together. Play. Pleasurable activity undertaken for no apparent purpose. It's good, isn't it? Pleasurable activity. Enjoyable. I like it. Undertaken for no real purpose. Right? I don't know what the purpose is. I just like to do it. We call that college football, right? How many of y'all were like partying yesterday? Like yesterday was a not so good day. Or it was a great day. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But it's fun. We tailgate. If anybody's sitting around like, what's the purpose? What is the purpose of killing pigs and wrapping it up? I'm just kidding. You know, and having a ball out there and watching grown men chase it around and hit each other over and over again and get really ticked off and really excited about that skin rolling around on the ground, right? Like, what is that? What is the purpose? Man, it's just fun. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just love it. Fair? Pleasurable activity undertaken with no apparent purpose. Here's another one that I thought was pretty good. Bernard Suits says, the voluntary attempt to overcome an unnecessary challenge. Life has plenty of challenges in it, does it not? And yet, we love to create another one, right? We're taking you down today. You are going down, right? Does it really matter? No, but it's going to be fun. An unnecessary challenge. Voluntary attempt to overcome an unnecessary challenge. So with those kind of things in mind, I want us to look at some research that was done at Stanford University. Now, this was happening out west. It was looking at 27 different schools with kids. And it was looking at how the day goes. They found 17 schools that were going to embark on this idea of play, of this time of just getting together and enjoying time during a school day. And then 12 schools in this study just had a typical school day of how we think of it, which, by the way, all of my school folks around here speak to me, comfort me. Why in the world? All right, this is my question, kind of because we're small grouping it here. You know, we're all sitting around at tables. Why do they have like 15-minute lunches now for kids or something like that? What is this? Why do they make them sit quietly to eat lunch and not talk? And if you eat fast enough, you might have a couple minutes to talk to somebody before you go back to class and sit quietly again. Is that how it works?
No, I think
I've been quiet about lunches.
the teachers,
What?
the teachers are the only ones that have 15-minute lunches.
Playtime. 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 My kids told me, we only got 15 minutes. If we don't get in line and get there quickly, then we lose time for our playtime. See, that's now when I was in school. Maybe my teachers may have been lazy or something, but like, there you go. You got 30 minutes. We got like 45 minutes some days. It was amazing. We were having a really good game of soccer, and it was almost full week of the game going on. You know what I'm saying? We come back in like, that was awesome. It's getting shorter. shorter lunch breaks, shorter playtime, and all this stuff going on, as we get to think about this idea of play today, it kind of, for me, as I look around, is thinking, how much are we cutting it out of life? And how good are we at being busy and maybe pursuing a purpose and yet not having time for this? For these kids, when they created these times, they found that of the kids, 27 schools that thoughtfully brought in play, 12 that had no change, the ones that brought the play in, the kids felt safer, were more ready to learn when teaching took place. It increased in vigorous activity was found. By the way, it's pretty important. Ever met lazy people before? No, none of us here are, right? We're going to read about them today in the Bible. Pharaoh's going to call them out a few times, right? Vigorous activity. And then number 4, bullying was reported 43% lower. And they weren't even trying to judge that. They just found it to be true. A side effect with a larger impact than programs that were aimed at lowering bullying in the school. Just creating a time for kids to play. Isn't that crazy? Now, this is Stanford. That's out there in California. We don't know what we think about them Californians these days. You know, talk to Rebecca about that and Chris sometime. Right? Those folks way out west. But there's got to be something in this. Because we're going to read a text today that begins to talk something about the importance of play. Now, the Bible, it's hard to read through the Bible and find everything you want. If you think the Bible answers every question you ever have, you may find yourself wondering at times. All right? There's certain things today that the Bible really wasn't thinking about 2,000 years ago, 3,800 years ago. And you may go to create ways that it speaks to an overarching theme or purpose in life that can help. But today I want to read a text that gives you a pretty, I think, pointed look at this idea of play. It shows up over in Exodus, the second book that we have in the Bible, Genesis and then Exodus. And it begins to lay out something for us that I think is really important. Because what I have found for us as adults is that we love to talk about kids and their love for play, and yet we somehow will shape it into, there's this idea of playing when you're young, and then you grow and mature into having purpose. And you kind of leave the playtime behind, right? You're kind of like, yeah, I used to play when I was a kid, but now I have a lot of purpose in life. I have a lot of things on my schedule. I have a lot of things I have to get done. And so we've graduated. But yet when they were doing research on this as well in adults, they also found that the kids seem to really do well in times of play and fun built into a day that adults did as well. They said that adults who engage in play are found to be more likely to have a good sense of trust and a greater self-regulation and conflict resolution. They found that when you have group play, whether that be as a family, as a work team, you end up with a healthier family and a healthier work team. Nike used to do this stuff. I don't know if they still do. You used to hear about Nike would have their day out. Probably had a few things. I feel like Nike might have a few things to play with too, you know. In this text today, the people have been now enslaved in Egypt. That's how Exodus all gets started. We go straight from the life of Joseph, and here we go with a bunch of people now that are God's people, the Israelites, and they're enslaved in Egypt. Moses has, been born, floating in a basket, got picked up by Pharaoh's daughter, grown up, in a pretty nice place. Made a bad decision one day and killed a guy, Some of us make bad decisions, and he got, I got to get out of town before they come and get me now. So he's been out, and God comes to Moses and says, hey, I want you to go in there, tell Pharaoh to let my people go. You know how the story goes. And Moses in chapter 4 comes up with excuse after excuse why he can't do that. Oh, God, yeah, I appreciate that and all, but you didn't mean to pick me. I mean, come on, look at me, God. Find somebody else. And God keeps telling him, no, I can do this, and I'm calling you. Moses does this over and over again, and finally God says, all right, fine, go get Aaron. All right, Moses goes, thank you, I'll go get Aaron. So he goes and gets Aaron, they sit down, they talk about what they're supposed to be doing, and that's where we pick up the story today. Afterward, Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said, this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Let my people go, so that they may hold a, what? Festival to me in the wilderness. Now, this word festival. Right? Now, words always have different meanings, right? They have a certain amount of things that go back. They have a certain amount of things that they can mean in different places at different times. Lots of words have these. They have different definitions. But I'm going to look this word up. All right, in Hebrew, this word that we have here for festival is also used to celebrate, to dance. This one made me laugh a little bit, so I had to put it in there. And to stagger. It's kind of funny. Come on. After a college setting.
You know what I'm saying? Same word. Same word. Festival also means to celebrate, to dance, and to stagger. Y'all deal with that yourself. I'm not saying that all those words always fit in everywhere. We know that. Certain words, you try to make them mean that, and something really awkward, and that probably feels that way if you're saying, so they may stagger, in the wilderness. That probably sounds bad, but this is obviously what? This festival is a time of celebration and a time of play. Dancing, celebrating. So they may hold a festival to me in the wilderness. Pharaoh said, "Who is the Lord that I should obey him? Let Israel go." Most what he's bringing in here, because this is something's going to take place. You might know how the story goes. If you don't, look at how the focus really comes here. I should obey and let Israel go. I don't know the Lord, and I will not let Israel go. They said, the God of the Hebrews has met with us. Now, let us take a 3-day journey into the wilderness to offer sacrifices to the Lord our God, or he may strike us with plagues or with a sword. Here comes persuasion, all right, coming in here. It's like, we got to persuade him. We got to in some way get him to agree to what we feel God has now told us to do. So let's just turn it into a time to offer sacrifices. Come on, guys. Y'all want to offer sacrifices to your God? Just let us go offer sacrifices to our God. It's going to be good. And if you don't let us do this, come on, let's be honest. He says he's going to strike us with plagues or with a sword. And if that happens, you're going to need more slaves. This is going to be a real problem for y'all. Workforce is going down if you don't let us go out there. Persuasive, right? This is how unions form, I feel like, Keeps going. But the king of Egypt said, Moses and Aaron, why are you taking the people away from their labor? To get back to your work. I love that, right? You ever been told that before? Get back to your work. Get back to work. Then Pharaoh said, look, the people of the land are now numerous, and you are stopping them from working. You see where Pharaoh's focus is in this passage here? Get back to work. You get back to work. And by the way, look what you're doing. You coming up here and talking like this, telling the people that God told you to go out and have this festival in the wilderness, has got them sitting around going, and break time is here. You're causing problems. Tell them to get back to work now, too. Y'all got work to do. And the same day, Pharaoh gave this order to the slave drivers and overseers in charge of the people. You will no longer supply the people with straw for making bricks. Let them go and gather their own straw. How's this sound? Y'all liking this idea so far? But require them to make the same number of bricks as before. Don't reduce the quota. What does that sound like to you?
Yeah.
More work.
Yeah.
All right? Not just get back to work, but now you got more work to do. Keeps going. They're lazy. That's why they're crying out, let us go and sacrifice to our God. And here comes Pharaoh's perspective on this, right? You got one group, they're saying this is what it's all about, and you got Pharaoh looking at it going, no, let me tell you what it's all about. What this is all about is lazy people. That's what this is about. Y'all like that? It's in the Bible, right? They're lazy. That's their problem. If they weren't so lazy, it wouldn't be a problem. They could get this done. Keeps going. Make that work harder for the people. So that, here's the reason I want you to do it, so that they keep working and pay no attention to the what? The lies. Again, we had something reframing the story. You have the Israelites reframing it to persuade Pharaoh, and now you have Pharaoh reframing the story of what he thinks is really going on. You got lazy people out there, and what we need to do is get them to work. Because have you ever been so busy and working so hard, you didn't have time to consider anything else going on in life? And you were working hard and paying no attention to everything else. So what you got coming up? I don't know. I got to get this done, though. I don't know what you got coming up. Give me one more weekend, right? Just one more weekend. Every time it's one more weekend, and you can. I don't know. I'm going to get this done. Paying no attention to this call God has for them to do what? What was God telling them to do again? Go have a party. Go have a festival. The slave drivers went, and the overseers went out and said to the people, this is what Pharaoh says, I will not give you any more straw. Go and get your own straw, wherever you can find it, but your work will not be reduced at all. So the people scattered all over Egypt to gather stubble to use for straw. And how many of y'all know something about a group of people together can work together and gain power? And if you want to disable them, what do? Spread them, right? Spread them out. Spread them out. When they're no longer together anymore, you spread them out, it weakens them. You know this, right? You've seen this work before? Make them lonely, make them more spread out, not working together, not a common goal anymore. And so the people scattered all over Egypt to gather stubble and use for straw. Slave drivers kept pressing them, saying, "Complete the work required of you for each day, just as when you had straw." And Pharaoh's slave drivers beat the Israelite overseers they had appointed, demanding, "Why haven't you met your quota of bricks yesterday or today as before?" And the Israelite overseers went and appealed to Pharaoh. "Why have you treated your servants this way?" You see how the story is going? When you add more and more, do you ever feel like this is happening in our world today? Add more and more work, add more and more greater and greater expectation and responsibility on people, and then scold them for not getting it done. Ever felt that way? Like, that is my job. That is my life. I don't know, I can't say for everybody in here, but I've heard it enough times in my life. Have people going, "You know what we did? Laid off 3 people. You know how many we hired? 0. That's right. You know how much work we have to do? The same amount we had to do before we laid off 3 people. Now I have 4 jobs. Right? You know what I'm talking about? Does this not sound a lot like that? I mean, you seriously walk into work, there's some Pharaoh sometimes, you know. The Israelite overseers now go to Pharaoh. "Why have you treated your servants this way?" Here's how he responds, right? "Your servants were given straw, yet we're told to make bricks. Your servants were given no straw, and we're told to make bricks. Your servants are being beaten, but the fault is with your own people, casting blame." Here's where the problem is. Pharaoh said, "Lazy. That's what you are. Lazy." This is not even a paraphrase of the Bible. This is just the NIV version of the Bible, right? Isn't this a great response right here? Lazy. That's what you are. You're lazy. If you were lazy, this won't be a problem. That's why you keep saying, "Let us go and sacrifice to the Lord." Keeps going. Now, keep to work. "You will not be given any straw, yet you must produce your full quota of bricks." Ain't changing anything. I don't care what you say. What do you think is going to happen next? So the Israelite overseers realized they were in trouble when they were told, we're not going to reduce the number of bricks required of you for each day. When they left Pharaoh, they found Moses and Aaron waiting for them. And this is how it works. I mean, let's talk about job role again for us today. You have a supervisor who's over you, and you don't think your supervisor is doing their job very well, and so you skip them and you go to the director of your department. Ever been there before? Or if you're really good, because you know you ride the elevator a little bit further up, right? And you go to the CFO, the CEO, and you talk to them about your problems. Ever been there before? Ever tried it? So the problem is you hired a sorry supervisor to regulate my day. This is not what we have in the story now. The workers go to Pharaoh to complain. And it doesn't work out for them. Now, I'm not sure if you've ever gotten to be a supervisor or director that had people coming back down the elevator and you're standing there waiting for them. Where you been? This is kind of how I picture it in my head. But if you got somebody ticked off enough, it don't matter, does it? Because listen to how this story goes next, right? "And they said to Moses and Aaron, 'May the Lord look on you and judge you.'" You go. "You made us obnoxious to Pharaoh and his officials and have put a sword in their hand to kill us. Hey, we don't even care anymore. We're going to accuse you now. Pharaoh didn't do anything for us, so now we're going to you. We're going to find somebody to fight with and win here." And now we have an internal battle taking place. It went from being against the enemy, so to speak, of Pharaoh. Now it's internal battle within the people here, coming to their leaders and saying, "You know what you've done? This is what you've done." Now, what do you think Moses and Aaron are going to do? Moses returned to the Lord. Doesn't say what they said back at that point. He goes to God and said, "Why, Lord, have you brought trouble on this people? Why is this happening to your people, God? Is this why you sent me?" Shall I shift blame now to God? You ever seen this happen before? Do we still do this today? "Ever since I went to Pharaoh to speak in your name, God, he has brought trouble on this people, and you have not rescued your people at all." And Moses is pretty good at it too. Now, as we read this, we hear a story that is so true of overworked people. How many of y'all ever found yourself in this place before? and you did stuff you would have never done before, but you were so put out, you were so exhausted, you had lost rational reasoning, and you did go above your supervisor because you're like, I'm going to fix the problem. I'm sick and tired of dealing with it. Never would have done it before, but you are so tired, you have worked 80-hour weeks for 80 weeks now, right? And you're exhausted, you're tired, you're worn out, and this has got to stop. And that's where the people find themselves in this story. And they're trying anything they can to stop it. So when it doesn't work going to the top dogs, they say, well, we'll tear down our folks right in front of us, and we'll see if we can get them to actually do something about it. And when that doesn't work, the leaders then go to God. It's your fault, God. You call yourself a loving God? Seriously. And here's how God responds. Then the Lord said to Moses, to the exhausted people, now you will see what I will do to Pharaoh. Because of my mighty hand, he will let them go. Because of my mighty hand, he will drive them out of this country. That's a great verse, revealing the nature of God for us. People are upset, they're exhausted, they're overworked, and they've only had more work put on. They are slaves. They are told what to do, and they have to do it. There's nothing they can do about it. They try what they think is what God has told them to do, and it's still not working out for them. Now they're not only mad at those sorry leaders and those sorry people who have them as slaves, they're now mad at God. When they cry out to God, God can say, get over yourself. Why you got to complain? You know I do good stuff. He says, no, here's the deal. It's because of my mighty hand, not yours. Not you being able to figure it out. Not you being able to do enough to let them go. Because of my mighty hand, who will drive them out of this country. So I have a list on my phone. It's my to-do list. Y'all have these right here on your phone? Your to-do list of things that have to get done. You add to them daily and subtract from them weekly, maybe. Right? And I have this one on my phone that I never check as being done. I was listening to a podcast, and they were interviewing the dean of the Vanderbilt School of Theology out there. And as they're interviewing, her name is Emily Towns. And as they're interviewing her, she quotes my professor, who was my second reader on my final project for my doctorate, and I had a chance to take several of his classes. His name's David Bartlett. David passed away shortly after reading my final paper. Before I graduated, he had passed away. An incredible man, a great man of God that helped lead and guide a group of students trying to figure out how to do ministry better. And she said, this is something David Bartlett once told me. When I heard David's name, I was like, okay, I'll really pay attention to this part. I know that guy. And this is what he said to her. Leave some work for the Lord. And she talks about how busy she is. She has a very big role at the Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's a pretty well-respected school. Not on the football field, but as a school. And she's got a lot of work and a lot of expectation. A lot of pressure on her to do well. He looked at her and said, leave some work for the Lord. As we read this story, this is a great illustration of this call to leave some work for the Lord. You know, for us, as we come across these times in life where we have maybe some purpose, that's exhausting purpose, and maybe even though we have purpose, it's not just painful anymore, we're really getting absolutely pitiful in life because of workloads that are put on us, things that we're accepting as responsibilities that we have to take care of. That in some way we're trying to find great purpose. In the midst of trying to find great purpose, we are wearing ourselves out. Let's look at this. God had plans for them to celebrate, to dance, maybe even stare, to play. But Pharaoh had plans for them to work harder. As we put this in the context of today, right? Put this in the current situation, maybe it sounds more like this, right? God created us for and has called us to do things that are fun to celebrate. But the world pressures us to keep working harder. Some of y'all know this. Like days, work hours are growing. You can't just leave work anymore because work goes with you. We know this has been a problem now for several years. That work can follow you anywhere because it sits in your pocket at all times. And you can access anything you need to off of your phone or your computer. God created us for and has called us to do things that are fun, enjoyable, to celebrate. But the world pressures us to keep working harder. This is a great quote to kind of maybe rethink how we look at this idea of work and play. The opposite of play is not work. The opposite of play is depression. And this shifts the way we begin to think about it and to look at it. The opposite of play is not work. The opposite of play is depression. And when there's no play, this is what we find ourselves in. So, if we don't take time to play, maybe we're puffing ourselves up, trying to convince ourselves that the world can't work unless we work. And we find ourselves maybe doing the very thing of stepping into the place of God. There's a story that's in the Gospel of John. Y'all may know this one. It's a great story. I've preached on it before. At the very beginning of the Gospel of John in chapter 3, you've got this introduction of the whole thing of who Jesus is. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. You have this big introduction that starts at the very beginning of all that we could ever think of. And it moves now to Jesus' early life in John chapter 3. And you know how the story goes? They go to a wedding party. Yes, it's a good one. And as they get there, it's great. It's put on, but what happens? Tragedy happens at the wedding, and they run out of wine. And Mary comes to Jesus and says, solve the problem. And he goes, hey, it ain't my time right now. What you talking about, woman? And she says, I'm your mom. He said, yes, ma'am. All right, what you want? And he goes off, right? And he says, fill them up with water. And taste it. And what is it? It's not just good wine. It's not just great wine. It's like the best, right? The best they've had. Man, nobody saves the best for later in the party, is what they say. Everybody gives the best up front and gives the sorry stuff later on. They can't taste it anyway. But you have turned, right? You have turned this into a great, extraordinary wine. And Jesus finds himself at a party. And it looks like the party's coming to an early end. His first miracle in the Gospel of John, where he is most like God in the Gospel of John than he is in any other gospel. His first thing he does, the first miracle of Jesus in the Gospel of John, is to keep the party going. There seems to be something about us. Play and fun matters. And so, let's begin to wrap it up. Play matters because it gives us a brief respite from the tyranny of parent purpose. And many of us have found ourselves there. We have an apparent purpose. We've tried to create it of some sorts to talk ourselves into getting up each day and keep going. And we're missing out on the play. And so today I encourage you, this week, find time for play. I encourage you, if you are good at this, if you are good at finding time for play, to let us know here at the church, please. Because most of us aren't. And we want to be good at it. All right? We want to figure out how we play in life. So seriously, I'm not being dead serious with you. It's funny, I know. But if you're good at it, if I mean, I'm good at creating time for play, let us know. Because we want to figure out how to do it around here. We want to share it with other people. That here's some ways that we can begin to take time and find moments to enjoy life, to celebrate, and to play. Play matters because it gives us a brief respite from the tyranny of apparent purpose. Some of you may be sitting here this morning going, you know what, this play stuff is ridiculous and dumb. I don't know why I came this Sunday, besides I knew I needed to come to church for some reason, all right? Maybe it was a quiet time of prayer. Maybe it was just to get away from the normal schedule of things that have been going on. Maybe it was to see how the carpet looks. Next week, we're going to look at this idea of purpose. In the way that sometimes maybe we really do just have an apparent purpose to get ourselves up in the morning. And we're missing out on how to understand purpose. We're going to talk about it next week. So wherever you find yourself, you're going to know about this play. Try again next week. The idea of apparent purpose in life and the idea of maybe some real purpose. We're going to ask the question next week. How do we understand our purpose? Let's pray. God, the idea of play sounds amazing when we are young, but as we get older, it sometimes makes us wonder if it really does count and matter, or if we're supposed to grow out of it. And I pray that if it is something that is so important for us to have time to celebrate, time to remember all that you've done, to have fun, to play, that we find it. And God, this week, as we maybe try to in some way create opportunities for us, for our family, for our friends, for whoever we have to work with and be around, that you give us some ways to see an opportunity and what it really means for us to take a time to play. And God, if we're onto something here, may it build us up as people who have been created to bring glory to your name. And we ask it in your name. Amen.